Convo podcast. You could be anywhere if you're on this channel. Thank you for tuning in. To the Crucial Convo podcast. Hey yo, welcome back to the Crucial Convo podcast. Hope everybody is good. It's your host, Kojo Afriye. Thanks for tapping in. If you have not hit that subscribe button, we're still building the channel, man. So hit the subscribe button. It costs you no money. Hit the like button, of course, too. So I was talking with my wife about this the other day, and this is interesting. So if you guys remember this story, there's a teacher in Virginia. Her name was Abby Schwerner. She was shot by her 6-year-old student 2 years ago in 2023. So a couple of days ago, a jury awarded her $10 million. I don't know if she's going to get paid, but she was awarded. The judgment was against the assistant principal, Ebony Parker. So let me go back to what happened. So this is a teacher in Virginia, like I said, and she is a 6-year-old student that shot her. Now, apparently, the assistant principal, Ebony Parker, was warned it was possible the 6-year-old had this gun, and I guess the assistant principal did nothing about it. So Ebony Parker has insurance through the school district, I assume, so I guess the school district is going to pay. But nonetheless, Abby Schwerner won this $10 million lawsuit. Now, the first thing I was thinking about is, at the time I remember hearing about the story, and I still ask myself the same question. How the hell did a 6-year-old get a gun and bring it to school and shoot the gun, right? What was the parents doing with the gun accessible to a 6-year-old? Now, kids find guns, it happens, but I feel like we're in a world now where we've learned from the past. So I would think that any adult who has a gun is going to make sure it's locked up. And I sure as hell am not going to have my 6-year-old getting access to it. But anyway, needless to say, Schwerner got shot twice. She got shot through the hand and she got shot in the abdomen. Somehow she survived. She got her students out of the classroom. And let me go over to the story real quick because again, this story was crazy to me.
A jury of 4 women and 3 men have come to the decision that they found Dr. Ebony Parker, the assistant principal at Rich Neck Elementary School, liable and grossly negligent because of her actions or lack of action on that day of January 6, 2023, when Abigail Schwerner was shot by a 6-year-old student in her class. The testimony over the past 2 weeks has been remarkable, has been emotional. Abigail Schwerner taking the stand herself, saying she thought she was going to die after she was shot, and there was a testimony from more than 15 witnesses, many of them saying, the teachers themselves saying, we gave Dr. Ebony Parker a warning that a student had come to us saying there might have been a gun in this student's backpack, there might have been a gun in this student's jacket pocket, and of course there was a gun in possession of that individual. Dr. Ebony Parker is not done with the court system yet here. She has a criminal trial starting in just about 2 weeks from now because she is charged here in the Commonwealth of Virginia with 8 counts of criminal child neglect. That's a felony here.
Let me stop that for a minute. Now, this is wild to me, though. This is really wild to me. And the reason why this is wild to me is that Ebony Parker should have definitely checked it out. Anytime you hear something about a student with a gun, you got to go check it out and find out what's going on just in case. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's a false alarm, it's better to safe than sorry, right? Obviously. This story makes me say, like, who was this 6-year-old? Because I'm thinking about it. I'm like, man, a 6-year-old kid in 1st grade. I'm going to get into a video in a minute with the mom and the mom's lawyer, because obviously, I'm surprised the mom didn't get sued. There was a case in Michigan, maybe I want to say 2 years ago. There was a school shooting, and for the first time in history, they actually charged the parents, and the parents were charged criminally and I think possibly civilly. But the assistant ex-principal, she was in charge. She didn't do anything, and she may face felony charges criminally. So I don't know if that's necessarily right in my personal opinion, but at the same time, you got to understand this is something that that should have been prevented, honestly, especially if she got warning. Let me just think about this for a minute. All of you out here with kids, right? Think about the fact when your kid, if your kid is past 6 years old, think about your child having a gun and going to school with it at 6 years old. So we all know that if you're a parent, you got to lock your gun or guns up. That's one. For two, this child obviously had some problems before, right? Because the average normal child doesn't bring a gun to school. And even if a child does bring a gun to school, it takes something else for the child to pick up the gun and actually shoot it at their teacher, right? So I was like, let me go back, and I wanted to look at the parents to kind of understand what the mind frame of the parent was. And I was a little shocked because the mom seemed, I don't know, she just seemed a little nonchalant. I'm not saying she didn't care, but she seemed so nonchalant about the shooting. Parents of my generation, parents my age, we are way more conscious about things that are happening now than our parents were. So that's the positive side. But we also have a group of parents in present day who are so nonchalant about what their kids are doing. They're so nonchalant about the situations that their kids are in and what responsibility they take for that.
The mother of the Virginia 6-year-old who shot his teacher. She is speaking out about it for the first time after a Virginia grand jury indicted and charged her with child neglect and failing to secure her son.
Has he processed the magnitude of what happened?
Well, in my opinion, he processes the events leading up to it. He talks a lot more about the day before or the 2 days before than he does about January 6th.
You released a statement shortly after the incident, and I just want to quote it. You said, "Our son suffers from an acute disability and was under a care plan at the school that included his mother or father attending school with him and accompanying him to class every day. The week of the shooting was the first week when we were not in class with him." What can you tell us specifically about your son's disability?
He has ADHD. Some are able to have it at a very mild rate, but he's off the wall, doesn't sit still, ever.
And why did the school decide that it was no longer necessary for the family to be in class?
Because we ended up working with another doctor. He had started medication, and he was meeting his goals academically.
Had your son ever spoken about hurting the teacher, or was there anything any angst that he had against her?
No, he actually really liked her. I will say that week he did come home and he was talking, a lot about how he felt like he was being ignored. So he would come home and, "Mom, I don't think that she was listening to me. I didn't like that." And then actually he ended up getting suspended the next day because he was in class. He was trying to tell her something. And she asked him to go sit back down. He threw his arms up, he said, "Fine." And when he threw his arms up, he knocked her phone out of her hand on accident. And he got suspended for that.
Ms. Werner did not respond to ABC News' request for comment, but in a lawsuit, she says the student slammed the cell phone on the ground so hard that it cracked and shattered.
When I look at that, I say, okay, I wanted to understand the mom. Now, the mom seems like a everyday, type of mom. I don't know where the dad was. That looks like that was her dad, the grandfather, sitting next to her. But they said that the child was on a behavioral program where the parents needed to sit in class with him, right? So this is obviously a 6-year-old who has some ADHD and behavioral issues. He's a kid, doesn't make him evil. He's a kid, right? If he has ADHD and he has some behavioral issues, then that's why I'm like, why do you have a gun accessible for this kid, especially even kids in general, but especially if you have a kid who has ADHD and has exhibited some behavioral issues where you actually have to go to class and sit with him. You really don't want to have a kid with a gun because emotionally he has not gotten there yet. These type of mistakes, they just don't need to happen. The kid could have killed himself.
According to the suit, the child had a history of random violence and that he attacked students and teachers alike, both in and out of school. Is that description accurate?
Whether it is or it isn't, the school enrolled him in September knowing all of the past behaviors, and they also knew that he had not attended only about 2 months of kindergarten and about 2 months of pre-K.
And you say that to say that they then own the responsibility?
Absolutely.
Bruh, that's crazy. Now for the lawyer to say that the school is going to be responsible because they knew his history, well, the parents knew his history too. So to say that the school is responsible for this kid bringing a gun to school and shooting his teacher is wild work. This is where we got into in society. It's the parents' responsibility. If the kid, if the school knows his history, the parents, they really know the kid's history. So there should be no way in the world this kid should ever had access to a gun.
The gun used in the shooting was legally purchased by Taylor. She says it was kept locked away. How did your son access the gun?
Nobody knows.
No one knows.
You'd have to ask him.
Have you asked him?
No, not yet. That's certainly something that will be probably brought out during litigation.
Let me just ask this, and I'll direct it to you, Jimmy. Is it that no one has asked him how he got it, or you're just not ready to reveal how he got it?
We're not ready to discuss that at this point.
Understood.
Yes, people have talked to him about that. I don't know that any adult knows exactly how he got the gun.
When the reporter asked, how did the kid get the gun? The attorney says, well, you got to ask him. He's 6. I'm sure that obviously you got to ask him, but that would be the first question. The parents know how the kid got the gun, right? Maybe they're not ready to say how he got the gun, but how he got the gun is pretty important. That's how all this happened. And the fact that, they're trying to put it on the school district is crazy. We've gotten to a point in society where we don't put enough pressure on the parents to be responsible for their children. When the kids are going to school, they're going to school to learn. And the school is responsible to make sure that the environment is safe. But the parents have to make sure their kids don't have access to weapons. They got to make sure they're in tune with their kids. And especially if your kids already have, your kid or kids already have some behavioral issues, you got to make sure they don't have a weapon like a gun. They don't have access to possibly even get a gun. I just think that, again, I'm not trying to knock the mom, but it's an incredible failure as a parent for your 6-year-old to bring a gun to school, especially knowing what you know. We have the benefit now going back in history and seeing we know how kids get into lock boxes and things like that, or maybe the parents didn't lock the gun. There's been so many cases like that over the last 20, 30, 40 years. We learned enough from now. Where there's no way. And if you're talking about a teenager that maybe found a key that could open the lockbox and get the gun, okay, cool. But you're talking about a 6-year-old. 6-year-old doesn't know where a key is, can't pick the lock, is not sophisticated enough. This is a gun that wasn't locked up, and somehow this kid got the gun. I think that is an incredible failure as a parent. And honestly think that, the parent should be sued versus the assistant principal. You know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting thing, but that's what's going on with that. But Abigail Schwerner, she went ahead and she got $10 million. I don't know if she's going to get all that money, but it's actually sad because it looks like the assistant principal, if charged criminally, could actually get more time. I think, again, I don't want the mom to go to jail either, but I think if anybody needs to be charged criminally, it might be the mom. The mom is the one who had the gun accessible for the kid to get in the house. So this is where we at with it, but we'll see what happens with that. We're still in this shutdown. I got to talk about ATC. I want to go over to another situation that almost happened in LAX, right? Now, this was 2 planes that nearly collided, and there's been a few near misses. I mean, the whole planes colliding with each other is scary business, right? And air traffic control right now is not getting paid, as well as TSA. And the safety on airlines is of big concern because not only, I've talked about this before, how ATC has been short-staffed, overworked, probably underpaid, but now they haven't even been getting paid. We're now in almost 40 days of government shutdown. So TSA and ATC have still not been getting paid, but nonetheless, there was a near miss that happened in LAX couple of days ago.
We have learned that this was very close to being a very serious accident. It happened just moments after the planes left the runways here at LAX. Experts say it looks like it was pilot error corrected, thankfully, by air traffic controllers. But this will not help public perception right now that flying is less safe as the government shutdown continues and there are massive staffing shortages in the nation's airports. On the top of your screen, ITY 621 is ITA Airlines Flight 621 heading to Rome. Below it, AAL 4 is American Airlines Flight 4 heading to New York.
Tower 61, have you service me?
Watch as an air traffic controller seems to notice something happening with the ETA plane upon takeoff. It's headed in the wrong direction, turning left into the path of the American flight. He orders the ETA pilot to turn right immediately, as another controller warns the American plane to stop climbing. Another jet is in its way, reportedly within 5 seconds of crashing in midair.
Now, look, the reason why I play that, this can happen. Has happened. You know what I'm saying? But air traffic control needs to be paid. You got to make sure they get paid. They work ridiculous hours, and the safety of Americans flying planes is so much hinged, not just on the pilots, not just on the planes themselves, being in good condition, but the air traffic controllers. Pilots can make errors, and, they have radar, they have their flying skills, but the air traffic controller are their they're talking GPS on the ground, if you will. So again, I keep talking about this. I don't think enough people really understand what it's like to work that type of job, TSA and ATC, and not be getting paid. I mean, they work long hours. A lot of them work 6 days a week, 10-hour shifts, and they still are not getting paid, and they're everyday people.
Now, every politician that I've heard has said that there's no correlation between the lack of pay and safety and security. You say there that there is a security risk created by this.
I think anyone that says that is absolutely insane. With any what we're going through as federal workers is traumatic for a lot of people. And we know that traumatic experiences have effects on your mental. So if anyone is saying that, I absolutely don't agree with that. My stance will still be that this is affecting officers mentally. And if this continues to go on, I hope that it doesn't happen, but there needs to be some recourse that happens immediately to take care of these officers so they can get the stress of not knowing what's going to happen with their homes, their children, their families every day.
All right, let's expand the conversation now and bring in Daryl Wilson, retired naval aviator and pilot who is one of the leaders of the Georgia Black Republican Council, and Theron Johnson, a Democratic strategist. Daryl, let me start with you. We just heard here from a TSA worker who says that this is a safety risk, not paying people. What's your reaction to that?
Well, that's one of the reasons that the Secretary of Transportation has taken the steps to alleviate the congestion and the stress upon the system and reducing the number of flights. You have to be able to do something, take some action, and that's the action that's being taken at the time.
I don't know that eliminates the safety risk.
I think it's a no-brainer. I don't think it's even complicated. If you don't pay the people who are in charge of some of the most critical parts of air travel and safety, yes, you're compromising safety. People who don't get paid, people go to work simply to get paid. Nobody's going to work just because they just want to be there. I mean, yeah, people like their jobs, but at the end of the day, if you take away the money from most jobs, people aren't going to show up. This is not like their own business. It's not their only passion and they're just showing up because they own the business. No, these are workers, TSA workers, air traffic control workers. They are showing up to get paid and feed their families and pay their bills. So the fact alone, to me, the biggest thing about this shutdown, honestly, to me, is that we should reevaluate who gets paid during the shutdown, right? Now, I already talked about SNAP. I'm not going to talk about SNAP benefits. It is what it is. They're figuring out the SNAP benefits. So I'm not going to go into that. But air traffic control is because that near collision, if it wasn't for that air traffic controller in California, that could have been a huge accident with a lot of casualties. So I'm praying that no one ends up being killed. I'm hoping that no major airline catastrophe happens, because if something happens, keep in mind too, TSA too, a lot of people are sleeping on TSA. Let's just say, for example, and again, I'm not wishing it, I'm not hoping it, but let's just say, for example, there was a terrorist who wanted to plant something on a plane, a bomb or whatever the case is. Think about it. TSA is the one who is in charge of catching that stuff, right? So you're not paying them. They're tired. They're not getting paid. They're frustrated, stressed. You don't want those workers stressed. If they miss something, a lot of people could die. You understand what I'm saying? So I think this is the biggest lesson.
How to pay the rent, how to pay for food, how to fill the gas tank up, instead of what's coming through on that scanner.
Oh, no, I agree with you. And
Secretary Duffy has also made that case for the air traffic controllers as well. So there is a safety issue, and until the Democrats vote for opening the government again, you have to take some action, and action is being taken. Theron, why did Democrats yesterday vote against a bill to pay federal workers? What justifies that?
Because Democrats want this shutdown to end that the president created. You got to remember, Victor, we tried to negotiate with the president months ago. We trusted him in the first we were first able to stop the first shutdown in March because we trusted that he was going to do the right thing. But going forward, we want this shutdown to end, not just continue to piecemeal it.
I mean, you can't do both. Aaron's members of his union can't keep their apartments, and they can't feed their children and put gas in the car and continue to negotiate.
That's a good point. I don't know if you guys missed that, but it looks like the Democrats turned down a bill to pay federal workers, right? Because they want to fully open the government with the Obamacare subsidies in place. And again, my thing is that you got to look at what's important. I think it would be okay to piecemeal it right now. If they can't figure out, the agreement as far as the Obamacare subsidies, from what I understand, they wanted to extend them a year. And I had said that a couple of episodes ago. That would be a sensible thing for maybe the Republicans to consider, just to extend the subsidies for 1 year and open the government. Now, if they can't agree on that, I think that if there was a proposal to pay federal workers in the meantime, I don't see why the Democrats would turn that down. And that guy kind of skimmed over it. So if that's true, I think that's shame on the Democrats, too, because for them to go ahead and not vote on having or passing something to make sure federal workers are paid through the shutdown is crazy. Because, again, we have this real problem. And if someone ends up dying, or people, mass casualties end up dying because they're not paying these critical federal workers, it's all going to look bad for everybody. So we're going to see what happens. But like I said, I keep covering that. I think air traffic control and TSA, they don't get their flowers enough. I think people kind of look over it and they think that, it's just, no big deal. When you're going up, when I'm going to the airport to fly a plane, I pray that air traffic controllers are rested, happy, paid, right? TSA, I'm hoping that they are the same way. You got to keep them happy. They are so critical. They're so critical to our air travel. I was having another conversation with somebody the other day, and I think that what's interesting to me as a black man is that the black male vote, the black vote in and of itself is interesting, but the black male vote has been something to be studied over the last year or so. Now, this isn't a conversation about whether you should be Republican or Democrat per se, right? But, when we talk about the black community and we talk about the black male vote, we've kind of been on a yo-yo back and forth, right? So, like I covered before, last year we had Barack Obama, who came forth and told, black men that they were misogynistic for not wanting to vote for Kamala Harris, right? Not wanting to vote for a woman, right? It was all about misogyny. Most recently, they've talked about whether black men are lockstep with black women. There's a lot of conversation about black men and black women voting. I found this interesting. I saw this clip on Lapel Network, and I thought this was, Lapif Network. I saw this on there, and I thought that this is a good conversation. I wanted to play this real quick and talk about it. This is Dave Anderson. He's on this panel amongst other people, but Dave Anderson, I've seen him on his own platform as well as other platforms. But, I like people who speak common sense and people who are not emotional. And I think that's kind of the juncture where we're at now. The average American is far more tapped into the political conversation, not necessarily politics per se, but everybody's having political conversation. I think that's a great thing.
The black male vote. Break that down for us.
Well, the thing of it is, right now, we've been ostracized and neutralized in our communities, especially when it comes to talking about how votes work, because men, specifically black men, which are the most masculine men on the planet, we don't operate from our feelings. Representation and black girl magic is not enough to move the needle for us to be looking for people to represent us in our government, both locally and on a national level. But what we've been fed is a steady diet of indoctrination of vote blue no matter who, and everybody bad and orange man bad, and we got to get things done. And the truth of the matter is, when black men start to wake up and say, you know what, we're going to go independent, or we're going to see what the other side has to offer, then all of a sudden, people start panicking. That's why they sent Barack Obama, from down from on high, wherever the hell he was. And he went to Chicago saying, oh, you brothers are misogynists because you don't want to vote for a woman. And I'm like, well, were we misogynists when we voted for you over Hillary Clinton?
That is a great point, right? I've seen people like Roland Martin. I've seen other people. There's these shirts that say, vote like a black woman. And, I think that to see a man like Roland Martin, I see him wearing that shirt. And I've seen others wear that shirt to say, vote like a black woman. It makes me kind of laugh because I'm like, if you're a man, doesn't that make you feel a little weird? I mean, doesn't it make you feel a little emasculated? Like, I don't think you'd see a woman. I don't think you'd ever see a black woman, have a shirt that says vote like a black man. I don't think black women would do that and I don't think they should. If you're a black woman and you're voting a certain way, or you're voting, you should vote that way because that's the way you want to. I think all this conversation is great because I think what's happening is that we're starting to dismantle stereotypes. We're starting to dismantle the idea that everybody should just be lockstep in voting one way. I think that we're starting to peel back the layers of truth. And I say that to say that as a black man, I don't think you're going to guilt black men into voting any particular way. I think that if the Democrats, and I always say this before, if the Democrats present someone who would be a good president, they'll get in. We saw this recently with, the elections that happened in New Jersey, New York, Mamdani, whether you like them or not. And we also had the first black female mayor in Detroit. So people will get in office, Democrat or Republican. I think that black people, particularly black men, are not voting blindly. We don't vote from our emotions. So I think that's what it is. But that's a good thing. So I think when Dave Anderson references that, I think it's important because what they're trying to do a lot of times with the black male vote is appeal to us emotionally and say, you need to vote like a black woman. That's an insult. And I think that we need to stop that. You know what I'm saying? And there's plenty of people who are questioning, why are we voting in one way all the time? It's a dangerous thing to do. One of the other things that he had said in this video, which I thought was really interesting, a very simple way to put it. If we vote 90% of I'm talking about the black community. If the black community votes 90% Democrat, shouldn't you be scrutinizing the people you vote into office? So if you vote 90% one way, why would you be only focused on the 10%? Why would you only be focused on Republicans? Same way if you're a Republican. If you're a Republican and that's how you vote, why would you be focused on Democrats? So it goes both ways. But my point is, whoever you put into office, whoever you vote for, those are the people you're supposed to scrutinize. That's the whole point of this thing. That's the whole point of the political system, right? If you believe in voting and you believe in putting people in office who you believe to do the job for the people, you're supposed to scrutinize them.
Like, it's always an emotional situation. It's never we're going to do this. And for the past 60 years, black people have voted at a 90% clip for Democrats and don't have anything to show for it. Our neighborhoods are trash. Our schools are even worse. Our society is still the most disjointed, but it's the most pilfered in America. And it's not enough to have somebody, go to a HBCU or talk sassy or, had their lashes on and do Kendrick Lamar dance skits. We need something tangible for our vote, and we're saying no more.
That's part of a larger conversation, but I think that this is kind of where black men are starting to not necessarily be moved emotionally. Yeah, still a large majority of black men still vote Democrat, and I don't have a problem with someone voting Democrat, but I think it's important to start examining why and who you're voting for, right? And I think that's a big part of the disconnect or the things that people try to exploit between black men and black women is to say that, black men, if you're not voting exactly like a black woman, then you may be misogynistic. You may be a sellout, and I think that these things are being dismantled. It's not just about voting red or being a Republican, but it's really more about understanding, well, what is it that you want for your community, and what are the things that are important to you? And I think that these conversations are so important. And I was, my wife and I were talking about this the other day, and I was saying that, yeah, this is the thing. We focus so much time, when I say we, I mean our community. We spend so much time scrutinizing people we don't even vote for, and almost no time scrutinizing the people that we voted for. I laid off Kamala for a long time, but I still don't understand why people felt like, people are telling me that I should have voted for her. I still don't understand why. I'll be honest with you. I don't understand. Let me play a quick clip from her with Jon Stewart. So he asked her this question about Joe Biden, and this was her response.
I believe he was fully competent to serve.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
That surprises me, actually.
No, I do. There's a distinction to be made between running for president and being president.
What's the distinction?
Well, being a candidate for president of the United States is about being in a marathon at a sprinter's pace, having tomatoes thrown at you every step you take.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, it's more than a notion.
Get involved in public service, ladies and gentlemen.
And to be the seated president, the sitting president, while doing that, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. I think it's a hard case to make for people that he didn't have the stamina to run, but he had the stamina to govern. Because I think most people view the presidency as a marathon run at a sprint with tomatoes being thrown at you in terms of governance.
Just don't lie about it. At the end of the day, don't lie about it. No, Joe Biden was not competent towards the end of his term. He wasn't there. And it's pretty obvious. And I'm cool with it. It's over. It's water under the bridge. But to keep coming on here and pretending that he was okay when he wasn't is I think one of the reasons why you lost a lot of black men. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to be lied to when I can clearly see it. There's things that politicians are going to slip by you that you don't see and you don't understand. That's all good. But when you clearly see Joe Biden was not there, when you clearly see somebody is not competent on a level to not only to continue to be president, but to rerun, that's where everything started to go left for the Democrat Party to me. And that's what they're have been trying to fix since then. So we'll see what happens. I think that, again, I think we're in a great time. You have New York. We'll see what happens with Mandami. Bernie Sanders is still around. He's older, but he's lockstep in with the Democrat socialist movement, AOC and all them, Jasmine Crockett. The Democrat Party is still going to be an interesting situation to see what happens in 2028. You have Fetterman, who I think is very logical, but I think America has changed forever. We are never going back to the place, I think, where you'll just blindly get people voting one way. I think you're going to have a lot of people in the middle, and campaigning and all of this is about convincing people, and that's what I think Kamala didn't do for me and didn't do for a lot of people. But the same thing for the Republicans and independents. What I would love to see going forward is I love to see just an independent party, who comes forward with good ideas. And there's a big reason why that hasn't happened. I'm not going to get into that, but the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are big machines, and there's a lot of money. It takes a lot of money to campaign, as we see. I want to also talk about something I think that the Trump administration is introducing, which I think is a horrible idea. It's a horrible idea. And the headline caught my eye yesterday, right? So I see that the FHA, and when I say the Trump administration, right, this is everybody, right? It's not just Donald Trump personally, but it's the whole administration in power right now. So I'm looking at the FHA. So housing has been trash for the past few years for many reasons. We all pretty much understand. Most people kind of understand what happened. We had historical low interest rates. Then we had interest rates that went up. Inventory's always been an issue. Affordability has been an issue, but it got exacerbated by interest rates and exacerbated by high home prices that happened during COVID. So Buying a house is damn near impossible for most people, right? I saw this the other day, and I saw that the FHA director, Bill Pulte, on Saturday said the Trump administration is working on a plan to introduce 50-year term mortgage for home buyers. Now, I think this is reckless. And the reason why it's reckless is that the interest you're going to be paying. You know, there was even a talk at one point about 40-year mortgages. And this was before Trump got in. I think this was still during Joe Biden. But even 40 years is a long time. 30 years is a long time. But 30 years is kind of the common thing, right? And if you understand amortization, it's a word I always mess up. If you understand that, everybody knows if you have a home you pay for 30 years, you're usually paying about 2.5 to 3 times what the house is worth. So if you got a $300,000 home, in 30 years, you would have paid $1 million, close to $1 million because of interest. And, you know, it is what it is. But hopefully the home appreciates, right? So 50-year term. So President Trump, according to the FHA director, he says President Trump and him are indeed working on a 50-year mortgage term, a complete game changer, Pulte wrote. Trump campaigned on creating affordability for the younger generation last year, but Trump has faced headwinds on subjects more recently as prices rise. Nonetheless, I think 50-year mortgage isn't the answer either. What making the term further out, what it does make the payment lower, you know, but the interest that you're paying is crazy. It's like adding 20 more years on to a traditional 30-year mortgage. So yeah, it will make the monthly payments down, but the amount of money that you're paying is a long time. And 50 years is a long time. The average person lives to like 78 or 83 in America. So 30-year mortgage is about, you know, let's just say it's roughly a third, right, of someone's life, right? It's about a third, right? Let's just say a third, just to round it off, if the person lived to upper 80s. But 50 years is well over half of most people's life. 50 years is a long time to be in a mortgage. So I don't think that's necessarily the answer. I think that if Trump introduces this, and, you know, going back to why, one of the reasons why I didn't vote for Kamala, I didn't like her idea about saying that the government was going to build 300,000 new homes, because I didn't believe it. And I thought it was crazy. And I was like, well, Trump didn't introduce something like that because he know that that's bullshit. But to do 50-year mortgage is no bueno. The biggest thing to me, the biggest thing the Trump administration should do, instead of this 50-year mortgage madness, they need to make a law to stop hedge funds from buying single family homes, right? They need to limit it or stop it or whatever the case is, because that has not helped the housing market. No hedge fund or large fund should be buying up single family homes. That's just bad for the game, man. All the way bad for the game. So, you know, we'll see. They're talking about this 50-year mortgage. I don't think this is going to necessarily help. All it will do is create somewhat of it's not an artificially low payment, but it creates an artificially low payment. But overall, you're going to be paying more for the house. 50 years is way too long to be in a mortgage. So, but nonetheless, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Again, this is Crucial Convo Podcast. You're tuned in with your host, Kojo Afriye. Hit the subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in. We'll get back at you in a minute with more. Peace.